The kitchen of the Celestial Drift hummed with the familiar symphony of culinary precision. Harry Chen worked methodically, his hands moving through the practiced choreography of preparing the evening meal for the station's human contingent. Steam rose from pots containing synthesized broths, their molecular structures carefully calibrated to mimic Earth-origin ingredients. After 3 years aboard this deep space research station, Harry had perfected the art of making artificial food taste real. The ventilation system's sudden shift caught his attention first, a change in air pressure that his chef's instincts had learned to recognize. Then came the sound, a soft scratching at the kitchen's secondary airlock, the one that connected to the station's multi-species environmental zones. Harry set down his molecular whisk and approached the panel. The external scanner showed something unexpected, a creature roughly the size of a house cat, with iridescent scales that refracted the corridor's LED lighting into prismatic patterns. The dragon, because what else could one call a 4-limbed reptilian creature with vestigial wings, clutched a bundle wrapped in what appeared to be thermal-resistant fabric. Protocol dictated that Harry should contact security. The station housed 17 different sapient species, but the draconids kept strictly to their high-temperature sectors. They had no business in human environmental zones where temperatures hovered at a mere 22 degrees Celsius, frigid by their standards. But something in the creature's posture spoke of desperation rather than threat. Harry cycled the airlock. The small dragon stumbled through the moment the inner door opened, and Harry immediately understood the cost of its journey. Frost crystallized on its scales, and its movements had the sluggish quality of severe hypothermia. The creature's internal furnace, the biological fusion reactor that all draconids possessed, flickered visibly through its translucent chest cavity, burning dangerously low. "Easy," Harry said, reaching for a thermal blanket from the emergency kit. The dragon flinched but didn't retreat as Harry draped the heated fabric around its body. The creature's core temperature, according to the blanket's medical sensors, read 340 Kelvin, nearly 200 degrees below normal for its species. The dragon's clawed hand pushed the bundle forward, unwrapping it with trembling fingers. Inside lay ingredients: a crystalline root that pulsed with bioluminescence, 3 vials of amber fluid that might have been oil or alcohol, a cluster of what looked like metallic seeds, and a data chip. Harry picked up the chip and inserted it into his kitchen terminal. The translation matrix took a moment to process the draconid glyphs, then text scrolled across the screen in standard English. Human Chef Harry Chen. Designation: Chemical Manipulation Specialist. Request: Therapeutic Nutritional Synthesis. Subject: Draconian Juvenile. Designation: Honey. Age 4.7 stellar cycles. Condition: Reactor Destabilization Syndrome. Prognosis: without intervention, 87% probability of cascade failure within 72 hours. Harry read further. The document contained detailed biochemical analyses, nutritional requirements, and, most remarkably, a recipe. Not a draconid recipe, but one translated into human culinary terms, as if whoever had compiled this had studied human cooking methodology specifically to communicate with him. The small dragon, who the file identified as Honey's brother, designation starring against sunset, which the translator mercifully shortened to sunset, watched Harry with eyes that held an intelligence that transcended species boundaries. "Your brother is sick," Harry said, knowing the dragon's translator implant would convert his words. "And you need me to prepare medicine." Sunset nodded, a gesture that was apparently universal. His clawed hand pointed to the ingredients, then to Harry's cooking equipment, then made a motion toward the dragon sectors of the station. Harry studied the recipe again. Reactor Destabilization Syndrome. He'd heard of it. A draconid's biological fusion reactor, which powered everything from their flight capability to their cognitive functions, sometimes failed to properly catalyze deuterium in juvenile specimens. The condition was rare, and the treatment was rarer still. a compound so precise in its molecular structure that it could only be created through what humans called cooking and draconids called thermal artistry. The problem was that draconid physiology operated at temperatures that would vaporize most human cooking equipment, and human medicines, calibrated for carbon-based biochemistry operating at mundane temperatures, were useless for silicon carbide-based lifeforms whose bodies contained active fusion reactions. But the recipe before him was a bridge, a careful translation of draconid pharmaceutical synthesis into human culinary technique. "This will take time," Harry said, "and precision." Sunset's head bobbed again. The dragon's core temperature had risen to 380 Kelvin, still dangerously low, but stabilizing under the thermal blanket. Harry began to work. The crystalline root required sublimation at exactly 523 Kelvin, a temperature Harry achieved by placing it in a sealed graphene container and subjecting it to his plasma torch, carefully calibrated. The root's structure broke down into a vapor that condensed on the container's cooling surfaces as a powder that sparkled like ground diamonds. The amber fluid needed emulsification with the powder at a 3:1 ratio. Harry used his molecular mixer, the same tool he employed to create artificial cream sauces. The mixture began to glow faintly, releasing heat, a miniature fusion reaction catalyzed by the combination. The metallic seeds required the most delicate touch. According to the recipe, they contained deuterium-rich compounds, but in a configuration that would cause violent oxidation if exposed to oxygen too quickly. Harry worked in a nitrogen-filled prep chamber, cracking each seed with a laser scalpel and extracting the gel-like interior. This he combined with the glowing emulsion, stirring in a figure-8 pattern. The motion, according to the notes, was critical for proper molecular alignment. Sunset watched every movement, his body now warm enough that small flames occasionally flickered at his nostrils, a sign, Harry had learned, of draconid anxiety. The final step required heating the mixture to 1,200 Kelvin, well beyond human cooking equipment's normal range. But Harry had tools designed for experimental metallurgy-based cuisine. He placed the mixture in a titanium crucible and suspended it in a magnetic containment field, then bombarded it with focused microwaves. The mixture began to transform. It bubbled, not with the chaotic motion of boiling water, but with geometric precision, hexagonal patterns that pulsed in rhythm. The glow intensified from amber to gold to a brilliant white. According to the recipe, the process should take exactly 17 minutes. Harry watched the chronometer, adjusting the microwave frequency 3 times to maintain the proper reaction rate. At 16 minutes and 43 seconds, the mixture suddenly crystallized, forming a structure that looked like a snowflake made of solidified sunlight. Harry carefully extracted the crystal and placed it in a thermally insulated container. According to his instruments, it radiated at 890 Kelvin, warm enough to be handled by a draconid, cool enough to have stabilized into its final form. He handed the container to Sunset. The small dragon took it with both hands, his eyes, multifaceted like opals, reflecting gratitude in a way that needed no translation. Sunset reached into a pouch at his side and withdrew something that made Harry's breath catch. A scale, roughly the size of his palm, that pulsed with internal light. "Sunset, I can't," Harry began. But the dragon pressed it into his hand. The translation came through Harry's terminal. "Dragon scale, family token, debt of life. You have saved honey. Starring against Sunset gives scale to Harry Chen. Bond of fire and food eternal." Before Harry could respond, Sunset had retrieved the thermal blanket, wrapped it around himself, and disappeared into the airlock. The dragon moved with purpose now, his core temperature restored enough for the journey back to the high-temperature sectors. Harry stood alone in his kitchen, holding a dragon scale that radiated gentle warmth against his palm. He carefully placed it in a stasis container. The scale was organic material after all, and he wanted to preserve it properly. 3 days later, Harry received a message through the station's interspecies communication network. It was from the Draconid Medical Facility, and it contained a video file. Harry opened it to see a young dragon, Honey, he presumed, sitting up in what appeared to be a medical bed designed for high-temperature patients. The juvenile's chest cavity showed a fusion reactor burning steady and bright. Next to Honey sat Sunset, and both dragons raised their clawed hands in what the translation matrix identified as a gesture of gratitude and respect. A text message followed. Honey's reactor has stabilized. Full recovery projected. The Draconid community acknowledges the debt to human chef Harry Chen. Your mastery of thermal manipulation has saved a child of fire. Should you ever require aid, call upon the dragons. Harry saved the message and returned to his work, preparing the evening meal. But from that day forward, a dragon scale sat in a place of honor in his kitchen, a reminder that sometimes the most important recipes were the ones that bridged not just cultures but species. And in the high-temperature sectors of the celestial drift, a family of dragons told the story of the human chef who spoke the universal language of care, precision, and the ancient alchemy that all sapient species recognized. The transformation of ingredients into life itself.